How's it going, you guys, and welcome to your morning cup. Now we have to talk about the US-China talks in Anchorage, Alaska today. Eek is the word, eek. Now things got real intense real quick. Opening remarks were rather hostile. Well, no one said that they didn't see that coming, considering the fact that the US and Chinese relations have been, going nothing but downhill. Now under Trump, the drastic approach towards China was largely negative, blaming China for a lot of things which China had done, consisting of all of its international efforts to disembark anyone else's rights onto the South China Sea, as well as numerous other human rights violations that China has been indulging in over the years. But the opening remarks of the United States and China were rather hostile toward each other. Now, before the talks even began, China was obviously putting out a statement dictating the fact that the US was asking other nations to attack China. And the US instead was putting out a statement dictating the fact that it would cover all of the bases, including the Chinese treatment of the Uyghurs in Xinjiang, Taiwan, Hong Kong, as well as the South China Sea. And when it started, it was a freak show, to put it lightly. In an opening statement by the United States, Mr. Blinken from the United States side said that the US would discuss our deep concerns with the actions by China, including Xinjiang, Hong Kong, Taiwan, the cyber attacks on the United States, and the economic coercion of our allies by China, as each one of these actions threatens the rules-based order that maintains global stability. Now, by all aspects of the imagination, everything stated in this opening statement by the United States was factual. We understand the fact that everything that is highlighted in the statement China is currently accused of, and there's substantial proof that China is responsible for, especially the inhumane treatment of the Uyghurs, especially the treatment of Hong Kong as well as Taiwan, and the conflicts in the South China Sea, as well as pressuring of numerous nations that the US is allied with in terms of its economic sanctions. What we also understand is the fact that the Chinese side did not just take this standing down. It clapped back, stating that Mr. Yang from China accused Washington of using its military might and financial supremacy to suppress other countries. It abuses so-called notions of national security to obstruct normal trade exchanges and incites other nations to attack China instead. Mr. Yang about Xinjiang said that the human rights in the United States were at an all-time low, with black Americans being slaughtered. Now, this is all in light of the Black Lives Matter movement that has been running rampant throughout the United States, dictating and concerning significant racism aspects that are very much prevalent in the United States today. We understand the fact that there is a lot in the developing world that needs to be addressed. There's a lot in the developing world that needs to be taken head on. And the United States, being the leader of the free world, should be on top of more things than it currently is. But considering the fact that there are numerous reasons as to why things are going down in the United States are the way they're going down, also considering the fact that the United States is one of the only nations today that is facing a massive onslaught of the coronavirus pandemic, other nations are trying to pull out to the other side, whereas the US is still in the thick of it. And in the middle of all of this, we are not seeing racism die down in the US. We are always seeing more and more racism prompt up, more and more infighting prompt up, as well as more and more divisions in people's viewpoints being prompt up in the US. And the Chinese side, by all aspects, was well aware of this situation, considering the fact that it left no stone unturned when it came to putting allegations on the US about how it treats its own citizens. It should rather be more concerned about its country and its own citizens rather than pitching the blame onto Xinjiang and China about how it's treating its citizens, which doesn't make any sense. Being a third party in this, we understand the fact that both these nations are at fault in their own individual aspects. Both these nations need to get their act together. The US has significant things to do. China has way more significant things to do, considering the fact that it's opened up concentration camps in Xinjiang and put Uyghurs there for so-called re-establishment. It's making them agree and blatantly leave behind their religion and pick up a religion that the Chinese Communist Party is considering good enough for them, considering that they don't have the right as individuals to respect whatever culture they want to follow, but instead should respect whatever culture the Chinese Communist Party is asking them to follow. Mr. Sullivan, in the ending statement, stating that Washington does not want conflict with China, but will always stand up for our principles, for our people, as well as for our friends. You see, the United States and China have been completely at each other's throats recently, and what we understand is the fact that China recently surpassed the United States as the world's largest navy. And the US has taken that into significant accord, considering the fact that the US is not holding back any of its development itself, as well as deployments in the South China Sea closing in the distance, that if any conflict results in all-out warfare, the US is within range at all possible times to engage with China at their own backyard and not let China incurge onto United States territory or anywhere near the United States or the continental United States for that matter of fact. What we also understand is the fact that Guam and Hawaii have been a primary source of target for any nation that wants to pinch the United States, and China is no exception to that, considering the fact that Chinese missiles are within range of Hawaii, within range of Washington DC as well. But now we're looking at intercontinental ballistic missiles, and things should never get that bad. Things should never go down that path. And even though the opening statements of these talks were rather hostile, and even though the opening statements of both nations were rather hostile, we saw that by the end of it, the Chinese side dictated that the relationship between China and the US had deteriorated enough under the previous administration, and under this administration it should not follow the same guidelines or the same suit. Whereas the US has not put out any statement dictating how it's planning on dealing with China and all of its atrocities. The US is still holding its cards close to its chest, and what we understand today for a fact is that if the US and China do not come to a base agreement as to where the world is supposed to go from here on onwards, we're going to be looking at serious conflict. We might be looking at sanctions, we might be looking at a new Cold War, and we might be looking at a new hot war even, who knows. Let's just hope that it never goes down to that. Another thing about the US is that the US is picking its fights all at the same time. Biden in an interview stated that Russian President Vladimir Putin is a killer, openly dictating that he's a killer and he's going to be facing the consequences of his actions. That he hadn't faced the consequences of his actions in a long time, but he was going to get what's coming to him. And this just devastated any and all talks that were anticipated with Russia. Now what we see by the end of it is the fact that Russian President Vladimir Putin first put out a statement dictating that it takes one to know one, stating that Biden had done his own fair share of killing and was completely shying away from it. And also he challenged Biden to an open debate, stating that he would love to debate Biden on this issue, on any issue that Biden wants to debate in. And what we know for a fact is that the Democratic Party by no means or by no aspects is going to allow that to happen. Biden is, with all due respect, not in his cognitive prime as of now to just have an open word debate against one of the world's greatest tyrants, if you will. But if things do get from bad to worse, we understand the fact that if this debate does manifest itself, we're going to be looking at shots thrown that might further disintegrate the relationship between the United States and Russia that has been, on eggshells for a long time. With that being said, we understand that there is a lot happening in the world right now, especially with the whole China and the US issue, and then the China and the Russia issue, and then the US and Russia issue. And a little ray of good hope is that the Pakistani army chief has stated that India and Pakistan should bury the hatchet about what happened in the past and move forward with unity and with cooperation. And this is a statement that has never been made from the Pakistani side before. And if the Indian side takes its option on, and if the Pakistani side is not just using this for some kind of coercion themselves, we might be looking at the first aspects of budding peace in the Indian peninsula. Apart from that, this has been your morning cup. See you soon.